trip, I call it in the book, his awakening. He absorbed all of these. Not only, it's very important, not only did he absorb languages, but literatures. In Spain, where he met Washington Irving, who was kind of a mentor for him. And later he would say it was the sketchbook of Irving, the sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, detailing his European travels, that really inspired him to be a writer. In fact, his first book was called Outremer, A Pilgrimage Beyond the Seas. It was kind of a tribute to Irving. He so wanted to absorb literatures, languages, and to weave these into the development, the emergence of a distinctive American literary tradition. This is what he was emboldened to do, but he was also emboldened to do it by absorbing European cultures and literatures. And by the time he was finished, he had mastered 12 to 15 languages. His library in Cambridge still has 12,000 volumes in 45 dialects, 15 languages, all of which we can assume he read with fluency, and a number of which, of course, he translated into English. He is the first person to translate all of Dante into English by an American, the first American to translate all of Dante. He introduced no fewer than 25 German authors to American readers, including Goethe and Schiller. While he was in Spain, now this is very important because I think this has some relevance to a poem I expect you will want to discuss at some point, the Jewish cemetery at Newport, but he became familiar also not only with Spanish traditions, but also the Sephardic Jewish traditions. He did not master Hebrew. He looked at it, he studied it, he was interested in it. He was very interested, of course, in Hebrew history and Jewish history. So he absorbed so many of these different influences, and this is how he began as a scholar, and then later as a poet and as a writer. He was truly a man of letters. He was fluent in every different form of poetry, but he was also a translator. The first 9 books he published were translations. When he got back to Bowdoin in Maine, he wanted to teach these kids Spanish or Italian or French, and there were no texts available. So he wrote his own, published his own. In one instance, he really pleaded with his publisher in Boston to send proofs off the press so he could distribute them among his students. And so he began as a translator. And a very important book he published in 1844, the first of its kind in the United States, was the Poets and Poetry of Europe, 10 different European languages and literatures, poems that he selected with his wife, his second wife, who was an intellectual partner of his, and also a great classicist at Harvard, Cornelius Conway Felton. He wrote the prefaces, but he also translated these poems himself. So I guess all of these factors kind of shaped the man who became Longfellow, but then also along the way, he turned exclusively to poetry.